Hey guys, this is Twin Talk Radio. Today our special guest is going to be Jon Bailey, otherwise you guys might know him as the Epic Voice Guy. With me today is going to be my brother, the other twin for the Twin Talk Radio. He likes to be called the Gaming Mexican. And
Hi
today,
guys, I'm the Gaming Mexican. I'm glad to be here. What's going on?
and we also have a buddy of ours, and his name is going to be RarzRevenge, is what he likes to be called. And we're going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves, and then we'll start with the questions.
Hello. I'm the Gaming Mexican. I'm the twin and the other half, the better half of the Twin Talk Radio. We're going to be here with Jon Bailey again, as he said before, and we're going to be asking some questions about how his life and how he got into the business and what made him get into the business as well. And we got Rob here as well. Also, he's wanting to be an aspiring voice actor, just starting to get into it, so it's a good experience for him to be in.
So he might have a lot of questions for you too. So then that's kind of why we bring him in here. Somebody who wants to get really interested could ask maybe all the questions that maybe a starting voice actor would be interested in asking. So we'll let him ask a few questions after we ask some of our main preliminary questions, and then maybe we'll just shoot the ball for a little bit. All right. Sorry about that noise. We'll shut this a little bit. All right. So the first question I'm going to go ahead and ask you is, what made you get into voice acting?
Boobs.
Boobs. There you go. That's the motivation for everyone.
What are the ladies? Isn't that how you get the ladies? You gotta do funny voices, and then the ladies are like, "Hey, that guy is sexy."
No, I got into it accidentally. My wife was. I've always been interested in voices and cartoons and cartoon characters, and my wife made a MySpace page, which was the precursor to Facebook. While I was at work, I think I was managing the kitchen at Chick-fil-A at the time, and she was home bored, pregnant, and she's like, "Oh, this new social media thing that I honestly thought was never gonna last." Ended up I was wrong. She made a page for me and for her. And she's like, "You gotta check it out." And it was right around the time that pop-up ads were first coming up, and before pop-up blockers were automatically installed into your browsers. And something popped up for a local studio that actually was part of a nationwide chain, and it was like, "Oh, looking for, would you like to be a voice actor? We represent over 500 talents, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Oh, you should totally try out." And I was like, that's, whatever. That's just a silly pipe dream I've had since I was a kid or whatever. And she's like, "Well, the worst I can do is say no. I mean, what else have you got to lose? It's only like 10, 15 minutes away." And she made such a good point. I figured, yeah, why not? So I called him up, and sure enough, I tried out and they liked it. And I started, I booked my first job 11 days after they sent the first audition. And I booked like between 1 and 3 jobs a month. I was still part-time. I was only able to do auditions in the morning and still had a full-time job at night. And then my full-time job went bankrupt when the economy collapsed. And as part of the proceedings to get out of bankruptcy, they had to close down several warehouses, one of which was mine, of course. So I didn't have any other choice but to get into it. So, yeah. And just kind of worked out that way. First, it was kind of a fun way to do something I'd always loved to do and make a little extra money. And then it became like our sole necessary way to survive. So, yeah, it was kind of a have-to thing.
All right. That's actually pretty interesting. Essentially, a lot of the times when you hear somebody go big like this, a lot of the times you'd be like, yeah, this is something they really wanted to do, but it's always kind of interesting how somebody
well, yeah, I always wanted to do, but I mean,
when
you're a little kid, you really don't think about that as a career. You hear voices all over the place, radio, whatever, but you don't really think about somebody being paid to do that.
Yeah, and okay, I guess the next question I got is also kind of a deal that kind of ties in with that. The question is, what was your first big gig?
The first big gig that really kind of raised eyebrows and made people sit up and pay attention to me was the trailer for the Book of Eli Blu-ray, and it was a national TV spot. I think it originally aired internationally, maybe, I'm not sure, but anyways, it popped up and showed up online as well, and my manager had linked me to it, and it was like, "Oh, check out this spot. It turned out really, really well." And I shared it on a website where I did a lot of voiceover research and kept in contact with a lot of other voice actors that I looked up to. And I kind of started keeping a log of good days and bad days. It was kind of like a voiceover journal, and I would add a video if I found a link to something that I had booked. And I put that one on there, and all of a sudden everybody started paying attention. Like, oh, you're like a legitimate movie trailer voice guy. How cool is that? And the guy who owned the site, and at the time the site was huge. It had several tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that were all interested in voiceovers back when it wasn't as common as it is now. So there weren't as many sites about voice acting. And he featured it on the main page, so everybody that came to it was watching that video, and it got lots and lots of views. And it actually ended up with a phone call to me from somebody claiming to be from the union that had said that I was violating union rules and I couldn't do this job, and was asking all kinds of personal questions about my representation and how much I got paid. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. And he sent me some crap about, people doing voiceover jobs for companies and not getting paid. And then the company ends up using it, and which it had nothing to do with what he was accusing me of. Even threatened, he actually tried to make a little underhanded threat, like it'd be a shame if your kids grew up without a father because you were in prison. I'm like, did you just threaten to put me in jail, bro? And so I called my manager up and asked him about it, and come to find out, the guy was not working for the union. He actually was a talent agent. And best we can piece together, other big movie trailer voice guys heard that spot and got angry because they didn't book it, and griped at their agent saying, why didn't we get this job? Who's this guy? And he got scared and didn't want to lose his client. So he thought he might intimidate me out of the business by calling me up and threatening me and whatnot. So it was a ploy just to kind of get me to quit so he could save face with his own clients. And then my manager's like, this is a good sign. Whatever you're doing, it's got them scared because they're worried that you're going to be taking jobs away from them. And yeah, so that was kind of the first you're being noticed thing, So, but after that, it would just it all rolled uphill from there. It was just more and more jobs and bigger jobs, and it was entire campaigns that you would 20-something spots you would hear on TV and see them at Walmart on their in the electronics department at Target, whatever. It just kind of got bigger and bigger, and then the social media thing kicked off, and YouTube kind of being in that realm when those guys found out that I did real movie trailers and brought me in. That started getting bigger and bigger, and just tripled since I first joined. And so that's, even though I try to keep the two of them separate, because one thing is just the silly comedy YouTube type stuff. It's not, they're not actual commercials, not actual trailers for, Sony or whoever I'm working for. So I try to keep the two separated. That way I don't have clients that go, oh, you're just a YouTube voice guy. You're not a legitimate movie trailer voice. But they're kind of getting closer and closer to crossing over to each other, because now we actually have people that make the films or whatever, like the Russo brothers, who paid attention to what we wrote so they could improve on the second Captain America movie. They're starting to pay attention to what we're doing now. So some of them are like, oh, it'd be really great if you could do this thing with the movie trailer guy that works for you for our thing. So I'm starting to get real work based on the fake work. And even though I tried to keep those two things separate for such a long time, but I'd done several hundred movie trailers before that time, and kind of built up a good starting resume. A lot of it was smaller. Some of them were independent films, or they were, limited release theater type stuff. But some of them were pretty big, like the Machete campaign and the Smurfs campaign, and the Justin Timberlake movie, whatever it was, Friends with Benefits campaign. Those, not only were they good paying, but they drew a lot of attention in. But the Book of Eli was kind of that very first one that kind of got that ball rolling, and was one of the first things that made people sit up and pay attention to who I was.
Nice. So, rolling with that, you were talking about the different platforms. So, question about that, like for the aspiring or the new voice actors, what type of platform would you end up recommending they start with? Would you recommend that they try to get an agent, or would you recommend they just try doing some stuff on YouTube, or how would you go about that? Or do you think?
I'll try to make this as condensed as possible, but I've always been a firm believer in getting as many fishing rods out into the water as possible, because if you throw out 5 or 10 hooks into the water, you have 5 or 10 chances to catch one fish rather than just one chance to catch one fish. So any way you can put your voice out there is always good. You can use I forget the name of the app, the Sound something.
SoundCloud.
No, I don't think it's SoundCloud, is it? So yeah, maybe.
Is it?
Yeah,
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud, and you can put Instagram, you can put voice stuff, because you can do videos on that now. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. There's a new app called Snacked that you can piece together clips of videos from other people and whatnot. So there's a lot of places where audio can be a part of what you do, and doing cool things with that can get you recognized. You never really know it's going to blow up. I have friends who messed around doing Vine videos and became huge successes over 5-second videos. So you really don't know what to do. So, or what's going to make it or get the attention or whatever. So just do all of it. But do it all well. Don't do crappy. Do your best at everything that you do. But I don't condone the paying of paying for auditioning. That's kind of like when those people say, oh, you need to go to this guy and get $5,000 headshots before we can even start representing you. It's very scamish. But I do recommend to somebody who's never ever done voiceover work before, of any kind, professionally especially. I got started just doing collaborations with other people on YouTube. They would need a voice actor guy or whatever, and I was like, yeah, I'll be glad to help out. And it wasn't paid. It was just kind of a way to get started and kind of get an idea of the ropes. But voices.com is one that I've always recommended for people who've never done it before, at least for 1 month, because it's only like $40 a month, and you can get all kinds of copy of all different types of voiceover jobs, because there's lots and lots of them out there. You get an idea of what real copy is like, how fast you have to get it recorded and put and sent back, how to do an audition, how much competition you're up against. There's a lot of things that you realize, wow, this is too much for me, or you can say, hey, I think I could do this. And I did make, back before I was union, I did make like a $24,000 a year job from voices.com. So I can't bash it too bad about paying for online voiceover communities. But if you live close to a major city, New York especially, Atlanta, Los Angeles, there's a lot more potential for voiceover jobs in those particular cities. But if you live next to any big city, Houston, Dallas, any one of the major cities across the U.S., if you type in post-production and your city's name, if you live fairly close by, you'll find all different kinds of local places that do productions and do hire voice guys locally sometimes. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of ways to get started on your own. But the basics you have to have a good microphone, an internet connection, a decent enough computer where you can record your voice, and a quiet place to record it, and be able to email off that audio to somebody else or upload it to a site or whatever. So once you get the basics down, then you can worry about everything else later on, because a lot of people put too much focus on how much coaching you have to have, or how many conferences you have to go to, or how nice your equipment is, and people wanting to spend tens of thousands of dollars on the booth and never even booked a job before, or they want to spend $4,000 on a demo and they have no idea what they're doing yet. So just get out there and do a little stuff first. Try it out, collab with other people online and whatnot, and get a feel for it first. And there's a lot of research you can do on voice acting. It's more prevalent now, and more people know about it now than they did when I started, which was only 7 years ago. So, I mean, it's a lot easier to find free information than you think it is. You don't have to pay hundreds of dollars an hour, if not thousands of dollars an hour, for some fancy coach to tell you what to do, when you can find the same information for free with this little site called Google.
Never heard of it before.
Google.
Anyway,
Like Google.
I hear it's some kind of like an engine that searches for things. It's crazy, like a search engine.
If only they made something like that, man. That would be great.
I know, man.
Futuristic shit.
Only that existed, where you could just type in any word and it found all the information for you.
Man, if only. Anyways, I guess another question that I have for you would be involving, since you were talking about equipment and whatnot, the importance of a home studio. How important do you think a home studio would be?
It depends. It depends on how much you're doing it. If you're doing it for a casually, if you're just making gameplay videos, or you're just doing impression videos, you really don't have to spend a lot of money making a big studio. I have people who just stick a mic in their closet if they're able to fit in their clothes, make very good dampeners for outside noise. When I first got started, I just threw a blanket over my head. I didn't have a whole lot of equipment. So
That's
building
what I do.
Yeah, exactly. Like building a full-on studio doesn't require a ton of money. My first pop filter, which is the thing that keeps you from your P's and your, S's, from all those phonetic sounds from being too loud.
It's aggressive.
My first pop filter was just a pair of pantyhose stretched over a coat hanger. It wasn't fancy. I made it from just scraps I had laying around the house. My mic stand, I still have the same mic stand that I have always had, and I got it at a pawn shop for like $10. So, I mean, you don't have to sink a ton of money in it. And I've been interviewed by people who are mainly just hardware people in the voiceover business, and were just jaw dropped on how cheap I did my studio. In fact, 7 years professionally, and I just this year upgraded my studio. Now I've got a nice, decent-sized iMac. I've never had an iMac, any kind of Mac before. I've got a Focusrite audio, whatever they call that thing. Like I said, I don't know much about audio hardware. I know about the inside of a computer, but not audio hardware. And any decent condenser mic. You can get a condenser mic at Best Buy, or even online, even cheaper. But just any decent condenser mic could run you maybe up to $100. Obviously, the more you pay for it, the nicer it's going to be. But the majority of booking work and getting noticed and standing out from everybody else, it's not how good your mic is; it's how good you are.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I had another question. What is a normal day for you? The life of a voice actor.
A normal day consists of me getting up at 6:45 to make sure that everybody's getting ready to go to school. My wife just kind of keeps an eye on everybody, make sure that they get dressed, brush teeth, and eat breakfast and whatnot. And then I drive them to school and then drop them off. And as soon as I drop them off, I come back home, check and make sure I don't have anything to record from the day before. And then I'll go to the gym for about an hour to an hour and a half. Very rarely do I go longer than that. By the time I get back home, I do any type of YouTube content for my personal page that I can get done. I try to strictly schedule like what I'm going to do for that day. That way I know I have time to get it done, because I live on Central Time, but I work on Los Angeles time. They don't get to the office at 10 their time, which is noon my time. So I have a few hours in between there, and I'll get as much done as I can and get any errands like prescriptions or groceries, anything like that. I get all that stuff out of the way before noon, because I know at noon the possibility of stuff coming in will start to occur. With people who do the pay-to-play sites, they literally get audition 24 hours a day because there's always jobs going up. But I have an agent and a manager who send me stuff specifically. And because I do YouTube as well as voiceover, it's kind of like having two jobs rather than one. So I schedule all my YouTube stuff before their workday really starts. And then once noon hits, I just do the YouTube stuff because I have to pick my kids up at 3 o'clock on the dot, pretty much, is when I have to leave by. So I know I have 3 more hours before I have to leave to get my kids. So I will work on the YouTube stuff in between stuff that I have to record. If something comes in, I'll put that stuff on pause, go in, check out the description, listen to a references, there is one, look at whatever picture if there is one, do my best, run through 3 or 4 takes. It depends on how long the script is, get it sent off to whoever it belongs to, then go back to the YouTube stuff, and that just can keep doing that back and forth until 3 o'clock rolls around. By the end of the day, it usually gets much busier. Sometimes I'll get into the studio, where I'm talking to you guys from right now. I'll come in here and it'll just be one short job. But while I'm recording it, 3 other jobs popped up in my email. And then I'll get one sent off, and then another one will come in, and I'll work on the next one. And while I'm doing that one, even more will come in. Sometimes I've been in the booth for sometimes 4, sometimes 6 hours. In fact, there's been a few times where I was in here 8 hours straight because stuff just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. I'm actually working on all these spots for a music tour for a big band next year that I can't talk about which band it is yet. But it's one of those things where they just send you script after script after script after script, or they send you a whole bunch of stuff in one script, and you have to blow through, and they want them all separated by city or whatever, so that way they can keep, organized with their files and whatnot. So yeah, there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of upload time. Thankfully I have a very high-speed internet, and that has very quick upload speeds and download speeds, so that really helps.
So downtime's usually pretty low.
Downtime, there isn't much.
No, downtime when sending files and whatnot.
Yeah,
and then you turn around and then you got something else to do.
Download speed's a lot faster than upload speeds, but as far as work goes, it just depends. It varies every single day. It's like being on call for a regular job, where I always use I don't know why I use this as an example, but an ambulance driver, I guess because my agents and representation and my manager, they all act like everything that they send me is an emergency. You have to get this ASAP. It's all caps. ASAP.
And on this,
we need this back as fast as possible. Yes.
Clear.
Usually they have more time than they say they do, but they always act like it has to be back right away. So, but yeah, ambulance driver may not have a regular set shift hours. They may just be waiting around to go on call. Firemen just stay at the firehouse until something comes up, and then they have to go work. So it's very similar to those kinds of jobs where you're on the clock, but you're not doing anything, and you have to be around just in case you do have to do anything. Because there's been so many times where I had to go do something outside of the house, or drive down the street or whatever, and as soon as I waited around all day, nothing came in, and as soon as I set foot outside the door, that's when the email goes off, or that's when the phone rings saying, hey, can you get this back ASAP? So it's very hard to schedule around that. And then because of the popularity of some of the stuff that I've worked on, like Honest Trailers and the XCOM games and Transformers now, by being the voice of Optimus Prime, because of the popularity, a lot of those things are getting bigger and bigger. I'm getting booked at a lot more conventions, which takes me away from home during a weekday, which is when I normally get lots of voiceover work. And because the end of the week is always busier than the beginning of the week, that makes it very, very difficult scheduling conflicts for the people that I'm working for, because I'll either be in the middle of traveling or I'll be at a convention supposed to be saying hi to fans and greeting people and signing stuff and taking pictures, and my phone's on vibrate and they're sending me, hey, we need this ASAP, can you go back and record? So there's a lot of walking for me to go back to my hotel room and use my mobile setup to record something and send it back and go back downstairs. And so my representation tries very hard to work with me for that, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. Especially the cartoon voice actors. I know there's a lot of them that do a lot of convention appearances. So it's like juggling chainsaws that are on fire.
Jesus.
I'll tell you right now that you just said you voice Optimus Prime, you just hit Rob's over here. You just hit his soft spot.
Well, that was the reason.
I am Optimus Prime.
That was kind of what inspired me to become a voice actor when I was a kid. It was back before I even realized it was a job. But when I was 5 years old, I heard the same voice actor, but I heard Peter Cullen doing the intro for Voltron first, and that was when I first noticed the voice. And then that was around the same time. I think Voltron came on Saturdays, but I noticed on Transformers when it came up, and I haven't been playing with Transformers very long, but I saw the toys first, and then I heard Optimus Prime's voice in the cartoon and realized that was based on the same thing, and I instantly recognized that Voltron narrator, and I was like, oh, that's such a great voice. And I even remember as a kid thinking I'd love to be able to do that one day, like just to be that guy that has the coolest voice ever and makes people just sit up and pay attention no matter what he says. And so that kind of planted the seed that grew into the tree that is Jon Bailey.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and let these guys ask any other questions if they have any. Time's getting a little tight on right now, but
if you want to go a few minutes over, as long as nobody knocks on my door, I'm good.
That's pretty much it, right? I'm gonna go ahead and have them ask questions right now, if they have any.
Apparently not. All right, well, thanks for having me on.
Oh, bye.
Oh, that's quick. No, I don't really have much questions. The only questions I really wanted to ask were just follow-up questions, but you've covered a lot of it. You go very well in detail about this.
Well, it's not my first. It's not my first time being interviewed. So I've started trying lumping in all the FAQ stuff into nice, concise answers as best as possible. But you can watch Combiner Wars on Go 90 right now. The season finale comes out tomorrow, so you can binge watch all the way through the entire series. I'll be in the Dishonored 2 video game coming out next month. There's a chapter-based game called Snarf Quest Tales on Wii U, Xbox One, and PC that comes out this month. XCOM 2 comes to console September 27th of this month. And there's another game that I can't announce yet that's also a part of a very large franchise coming out next spring that you can hear me on. And you can always hear me every week on Honest Trailers and on my personal channel at youtube.com/c/realepicvoiceguy. And I do lots of funny stuff on all the social medias at Epic Voice Guy. As all my social medias at Epic Voice Guy. It's not too hard to find me.
Okay. What about you, Bob? Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Sure, go ahead.
I basically looked up to a voice actor, Stephen Blum, or Blum, how you pronounce his name? Blum. He, both you guys have that voice, and I know you can impersonate him too, because you have that rugged voice. And when I came home every day, seeing him being Tom from Toonami, and then realizing that he's been a part of my entire childhood, and just realizing one man did all of these voices.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is what molded me to be me. And the funny thing is, my very first impersonation, it's not going to be Steve Blum's because I can't do it personally, but was when I was 12 years old, I did Sean Connery. And being 12 years old, doing Sean Connery, sounding like this all the time. I was just being the cartoon, being the hero or be the villain inspired me. So my question is, which one do you like being?
Which one do I like being?
Like the villain, the hero, or is that the question, or
being the hero or the villain is that the question, or like? Sorry.
Those are all over the place. But being the hero or the villain.
Villains are always more fun to play. Villains have a lot bigger range. They can be maniacal. They can be scheming. They can be over the top, or they can be very subtle. I mean, there's just so many ways to play a villain, and they're just such fun characters. And if you look at the history of good versus evil stuff, which is the basis of most everything, especially animation and video games, it's always good versus bad. Who wouldn't want to be the villain? Because they're always they stand out almost more so than the good guy does. And obviously, everybody loves the good guy and they want to see them win, but they also want to see them fight their favorite villain. I mean, when you think of Batman and Joker, you instantly think of Mark Hamill as Joker. You don't necessarily think of Batman over that. You think of that crazy, that vein throbbing Mark Hamill thing that he did that would kill my throat in a matter of hours, and couldn't do it. Yeah, I couldn't do that over and over and over again. I even gave a little sample to Mark Hamill one time after saying that, I'm not jealous of your job at all. and he heard it. He's like, that was really good. I was like, yeah, but the point is I wouldn't be able to do any other jobs that I have to do if I had to do that all day like you do. That was right before he retired too. So I can see how it took a toll on him. But yeah, so Steve Bloom's got a great story. Just going back to what you said, though, but Steve Bloom's got a great story because he, one of the very few voice actors, because for a while there, anime voice actors just didn't do mainstream animation. The fact they kind of got their, people would snub their nose at him and be like, "Oh, you're an anime voice actor. Okay, so we really don't want to talk to that guy." And now recently, it's gotten where that's actually not a bad thing, and they can do both. And a lot of these voice actors that you may have used to heard in only anime, now you can hear them in, like my buddy Kyle. Kyle Hebert is the narrator for Dragon Ball Z, among many other Dragon Ball Z characters. He's Ryu in Street Fighter and other things. But he's also, made appearances in the Avengers animated series and other things. And it's like, and then he reprised his role as Ryu in Wreck-It Ralph. And it's becoming to where it's acceptable now, where it used to be like, no, we don't consider you a real voice actor or a real cartoon voice actor because you worked in anime, and that's a totally different thing. Doesn't require the same skills, or does not people less talented do that, or whatever it was that made him shun away. But Steve may have been one of the very first ones that really kind of crossed over into mainstream animation and did really, really well at it. Became very successful. He won a Guinness World Record holder for most video game characters and ever done. So the guy's one of my favorite voice actors as well. Very nice guy. Always keeps in touch and makes sure that our family's doing well, and insisted on meeting my kids whenever he was around our area. So, but yeah, I can see where, because when I think of all my favorite voice actors, other than one or two, it's always, I love them best for a villain that they portrayed. So, but I get to be the bad guy in the game that comes out next spring. I just can't talk about it, but I've heard he's a very cool character.
Very cool.
I've heard from people. Right.
Now,
And I am the final boss in XCOM 2 as well as other characters. But it's a lot of people find a hard time getting through that game because it can be pretty tough. So you may not ever hear me if you don't keep playing to the end. But the council guy you'll hear throughout the game telling you how badly that you're doing. And it was still really cool to play Optimus Prime. So being a hero can be cool too, but I think the villains are a little more fun.
yeah, that's Eliud, the one that showed me to the website that I started. He gave me my first job, which he ended up canceling that. But but I kind of made my own name for myself and I didn't mean to. I became a bad guy voice actor, and I really wanted to be a good guy. And what you basically you covered that. The bad guys, you have more characteristics to work with. And I'm like, all right, I don't mean to be bad, but I guess this is what I'm going to be, because it's just you have your unique, your movie trailer voice. You own that. And I know that's everybody's, when you're a voice actor, you have to make your own voice. Yeah. And that's your foot in the door. My foot in the door, which is my own voice I created, and I call him Tricky the Villain. Well, he's just creepy as fuck. He's a mixture between Joker and some British guy I don't even know, but very raspy and can kind of chill you to the spine. And that I'm working on that. And I have a question about when you since you go through an agent, but say a person that like me and Eliud, we don't have an agent. at the moment. How long and how many different voices could we do for a homemade demo? And
It depends. That's a very broad question because some people don't do anything other than one voice, but they do that one voice really, really well, and that's why they get hired for so much. And I mean, there's a reason why. You may not even know his name, but Ashton Smith is like the top voiceover guy for movie trailer stuff because he's created that brand of I'm the best big movie trailer announcer voice in the business. So you're going to have to pay a lot more for me. And I don't do anything else except for this one thing. I don't do characters. I just do this trailer voice thing. And if you want that, then you come to me over everybody else. And that's his brand. So, and then there's other actors that are only really good at, each one of them has maybe a special specific thing that they're good at, and a very small number of people. And I don't want to try to toot my own horn, but that's just the way my jobs have come. They're all over the place. I tend to be good at lots of things, which gives me more opportunities to book more jobs. Like you won't hear Ashton Smith playing, guy next door in a radio ad for Best Buy or whatever. So he's just not a voice he can do because his voice is genuinely this big voice that's really low and deep, and he couldn't play a 20-something millennial guy. Whereas me, I could totally pull that off. It's just one of those things I've always been able to do. And if they need a big giant villain voice, then I could give them a big giant villain voice. It just whatever they throw at me. I always just say, sure, I'll give it a shot, and I do my absolute best at it. I don't know if I'm good at it or not, but I'm willing to give it a try. And some people can't do that. In fact, lots of people can't do that. And some people are very good at audiobook narration. They're very good at sounding like an average everyday guy next door. I was talking with Dean Cain just Sunday about Saturday about voice acting. And he was like, man, he said, it amazes me what you guys can do. Because he said, I don't book very much voiceover work, maybe one or two times in the last several years. But when I did do one where it was a big table reading where it was, like in animation, they usually have like all the voice actors in a semicircle around all these mics. Most of the time on everything else, they record separately. But he said, I'm looking at my script and I'm like, okay, my line's coming up here. And he said, I hear this crazy voice come from somewhere. I was like, well, what was that? He looks over and it's this guy that was totally talking normally before they started. And he's like, oh, that guy does that voice. And I look back down my script again. A few seconds later, I'm hearing there's another crazy voice. And I was like, what was that? And it's the same guy that just said this other voice a few seconds ago. I was like, holy crap, that guy did two totally different voices. So some people just don't have that ability. They can do their one thing, and that's all they can do. And very few others can do, lots of different types of things, or maybe one or two or three things, but not everything. And I think I'm in the smaller percentage of people that literally can do all different types of jobs. I can do sound-alike jobs. I've done narration. I've done documentary. I've done trailer. I've done promo. I've done characters in games and characters in animated series and, normal average guy next door stuff and commercials and whatnot. So just whatever they throw my way, I'm willing to give a shot. And I surprise myself on how much of the stuff that I actually book. But that's not for everybody. One of my goals very early on was to be in that very small group of voiceover guys that do both movie trailers and cartoon animation type work. And there's only maybe 5 that have ever done that out of maybe a dozen or so. But it's an even smaller group within a small group. Tom Kane, who's the voice of Yoda, Professor on Powerpuff Girls, and he's also I just heard him tonight on the promos for Kevin Can Wait on CPS. He's the promo and movie trailer guy as well. Corey Burton, who I never knew that he even did trailers, but Corey Burton was one of my all-time favorite. He is my favorite character from Transformers. He was Shockwave in the original cartoon. He has many other cartoon character voices, but he's also the guy who does all the Grindhouse movie trailer type stuff. So any one of the Quentin Tarantino movies, Django Unchained, that's him. And I'm like, holy crap, I had no idea that was the same dude until I actually got a reference for a sound-alike. And they said, can you sound like this guy? And it went to his website, and he had character stuff and movie trailer stuff. So, not everybody can do both. Jim Cummings has done both. Peter Cullen has done both. But there's not that many. There's maybe 3, 4, 5 of them total. Most of them just do the one or just do the other, but nary the twain shall meet. And so it really just depends on what you can do. That's the only answer I can really give you. If you're just good at doing that one particular voice, then just do either a bunch of clips that are just of that voice that you can do the best, or if you're really good at multiple voices, the biggest mistake you can make is doing impressions. Just don't do any impressions on your thing, because doing an impression, especially an impression of a character, and the voice actor is still alive and among us, why would they want to hire you when they have the original? They don't need you. That's almost insulting. Like, oh, well, even though you already have Jim Cummings, I can sound better than Jim Cummings can for a character that he created. So you want to stick to original characters and remember that your demo is an acting demo. It's not necessarily a voice demo. They're not looking for how crazy and zany voices that you can make, because a very small percentage of cartoon voices anymore are zany, crazy characters. Most of them are more believable, realistic. You know, they're just how that guy talks. The guy who plays Dr. Venture on Venture Brothers, that's just how he talks. The guy who plays Archer, that's how he talks. Believe it or not, that's his real voice. So they hire those guys because they're funny, because they have good timing, because they're good at delivery, because they're good actors, whatever. So you want to make sure that the very beginning of your demo is your absolutely best acting, and most likely your normal voice, but you doing a very good job of acting, making a believable character out of something. You don't want your clips to be longer than 10, 15 seconds long. For a character demo, don't do anything longer than like a minute to a minute and a half. It used to be longer, but as time goes on, demos get shorter and shorter because agents and potential clients only listen to less and less and less. Currently, you are lucky to get them to listen to your demo longer than 10 seconds. So another big mistake you want to avoid is not spending 15 seconds introducing who you are and why you want to become a voice actor. So don't go like, hi, my name is Jon Bailey, and when I was 4 years old, you don't want to get in there and be like, my name is Jon Bailey, and before time began, there was a cube. And an hour and a half later, you finally get to your demo. You want to be like Jon Bailey, and then boom, you start throwing stuff out there. And it's smarter to have somebody else to do that slate. That's what that name part's called. Have somebody of the opposite sex do it for you. So if you're a male voice actor, you want to have a female saying Jon Bailey, or if it's a female voice actor, you want to have a male guy at the beginning saying, Kate Bailey, and then the voice actor's voices start kicking in. That way, it kind of separates the slate from what they're actually paying attention to, which is you and your performance and how good of an actor you are. Hopefully, that answers your question.
That was beautiful, and I've been grueling because I really just watched your drive-through prank video. Now, have you did it the opposite way, being the driver of the vehicle?
I don't make those pranks. I just work. It's one of many of Defy Media's channels, including the Honest Trailers guys and the Smosh Games and Warp Zone, all the other guys that I do voice stuff for. So if they come up with an idea for one, I'm willing to help out and do it. It usually takes a whole day of shooting. In my normal personal life, I do that all the time, but because I work for them and I'm under contract with them, I'm not allowed to do any kind of prank stuff unless I'm officially doing it for those guys. So
you can't. You could do the voice, but you cannot.
I can't record it and show anybody.
I try to do the same thing through drive-throughs. It's funny, although you do it more justice because you have that voice. That golden voice.
Well, I actually have a lot more fun just doing other characters or doing impressions or messing with people in the drive-through window, and then going back to my normal voice when I pull up and just telling them the person in front of me pulled off. It's kind of mean, but it makes me feel better.
Yeah,
it makes me laugh.
Yeah, it'd be like just ordering your epic voice and then just pull up it. Like, yeah, I don't know what that guy was doing. He just pulled off real quick. Yeah, when he turned the building right off the side.
I wasted one lady's. I think I wasted like 11 minutes of her time. I was describing the origins of mayonnaise that I totally made up. They weren't even real. I was describing the origins of mayonnaise as Christopher Walken, and that poor lady, she just went on and on and on, and she just and then, like the line behind me is just backing up further and further. She just didn't seem to care. But the best part of it was when I got down to the very end of the order, I was like, on second thought, I don't think I want any mayonnaise. It's like all that for nothing.
Oh man,
that's awesome.
All right, okay, I got one more.
Sure.
Since time's getting pretty late, and I kind of want to let you get to your kids and whatnot. But
no,
talking about your kids, I just have one.
It just gets hot in here. That's why I didn't want to do it too long.
But it's okay. Talking about your kids though, do you ever read your kids' bedtime stories in like an epic voice?
No, see, that's the problem. You guys keep throwing epic voice.
I know the epic voice, but like
I do all kinds of voices.
Well,
why would I just do one when I could do all sorts of voices? I create new characters. and read stories that have like different characters in them, or I'll let them pick which voices they want to hear. And I never know. Sometimes they just say, you know, an alien with 3 heads or something. They'll just make up something off the top of their head, or sometimes they'll say a character's name or a person's name. But that was more so when they were younger. Now they're all getting older. I got 2 teenagers now and 2 kids that are like 8 and 10, but they still have Star Student Day at their schools. And that's always a big deal for them because I'll bring some of the toys that I've done voices for with me so the kids can like play with them and hear my voice in it. And it's like, you can see their faces like, holy crap, somebody got paid to do a voice and it went inside this toy. And that's the guy who did the voice for this toy. And I'll talk about my job, and we get to have lunch together. But when we go back to the classroom, the kids usually bring me a huge stack of books, of which I can only do maybe 1 or 2 before I have to get back to work because it's in the middle of the afternoon for me, and you already heard my schedule. But yeah, that's always fun. Sometimes I just bring books with me, especially if I know I'm going to be short on time. I'll bring something that already has something marked down so that way I can get through it a little bit quicker. But they always seem to really enjoy that. Used to be, it was kind of one of those funny little things where they didn't realize what a voice actor was, and after I left they just thought that was so cool. But now more of the jobs that I'm doing are online, where even kids have seen them. If it's on a trailer for a Frozen or some Disney show, that they kind of make a little more family friendly so even kids can watch it. And now people are starting to recognize me from the internet, as well as the fact that I'm doing voiceovers for a living. So now it's like twice as much, like they know who I am before I even introduce myself. So it's a little bit weird, but my kids love it because they're like, you've made me famous in my classroom. I'm like, oh, your dad's so cool. Your dad's the voice of Optimus Prime. So yeah, but I've been doing that since long before. I've been reading stories to my kids longer than people paid me to. Yeah, I started doing that before when they were just, you know, still in the crib.
Lads.
They couldn't even talk yet. I would always read to the kids. In fact, I think I may have even read to them before they even got here, some of them.
Does anybody else have one last question or anything like that they want to ask? Nope. What about you, Rob?
I'm fulfilled.
He's got more questions than we've got time for.
I really want to hear you. Can you do Heath Ledger?
Heath Ledger's Joe. Well, I don't know if I want to go into this because it might take a little long, but I have a personal weird thing about doing an actor's voice that have passed away, and I don't know why. I really don't. I'm not sure if I'm alone in that, or if that's something that maybe more people feel like they don't want to do. But a third of my income comes from doing sound-alikes for other actors, and not just impressions, which is what comedians do, but like an actual sound-alike for filling in for them for whatever the job is. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, when somebody passes away, especially in a tragic situation like Heath Ledger or Robin Williams, they'll send me that stuff right around the time that they passed away, and even sometimes years afterwards, and I'm still just like, I don't know if I want to do that or not. It just doesn't feel right. It feels, to me personally, it just feels like it's respectful of the dead, and I don't know why. And I dread some of my favorite, like some of my favorite voice actors or some of my favorite characters and the actors that do those voices. If they ever passed away, like, you know, what would happen if the guy who does Optimus Prime's voice passed away, and I have to get over this weird thing I have about doing, you know, actors that have passed on and doing impressions of their characters or whatever. I don't know. Jim Cummings has done really well filling in for Sterling Holloway, and I forget the original voice of Tigger's name, but he's done both of those characters for years, and he was a replacement for him. You know, he's not the only one. I'm sure there's been plenty of others. There's the voice actor that did Scrooge McDuck's voice passed away this year as well, and it's like, you got to find somebody to replace that. My friend Eric Balzoff does Fenton Crackshell / Gizmo Duck's voice for, you know, the new DuckTales stuff, but he's not the original. The original passed away quite a while back. So I don't know. I just don't know if that's just something personal I have to try to work my brain around or whatever. Yeah, but I try to stay away from doing actors that have passed away, at least within the last decade or so. I don't know how much time I feel like I need to let go by before I start doing them again. But yeah, I haven't, unless specifically requested for a job. And like I said, my top priority is making sure my family's taken care of. But even like Don LaFontaine and Hal Douglas, who were both huge movie trailer guys, they've both passed away not too long ago. And I try not to do those in public or for other people unless it's for a job that I have to do. Even upon request, I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe
I kind of get it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, because essentially how you're seeing it is making money on somebody else's misfortune, or
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's that's it, or maybe
I do kind of get that.
My parents taught me to be very respectful of dead. That may have a lot to do with it as well. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know if it feels like I guess to me, especially when it comes to just doing impressions, because impressions, as opposed to what I normally have to do, which is just filling in for an actor, impressions especially they originally came up from comedians trying to find a new way to make people laugh, and it feels like it's wrong for me to do an impression of a guy to get a laugh when the guy died, especially when it was in a situation like with Robin Williams or Heath Ledger. Like some of them died from natural causes or for the actor that played Chekhov in the Star Trek movies. His was just an accident. It wasn't anybody's fault, but it was still a tragic situation, and I would have felt bad if they'd needed me to fill in for him. I would have been like, I don't know if I want to do that or not. But anyways, maybe I just have mental scars. You want to know where I got these mental scars? I don't know.
Oh. Well, thanks for that, anyways.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, even though you're personally against it, thank you for that.
Yeah.
But essentially, I think that might actually be our time. We don't want to hold you too long.
I didn't mean to end on a downer. Let's do something fun.
How about the cue the outro music? Da 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 da. No, nothing like that.
No.
No, that ain't gonna work.
I don't have any music.
Wait.
Well, I'll do a quick recap if that's all you guys got. You can find me on all social media at Epic Voice Guy. In fact, if you just look up Epic Voice Guy, you'll probably find my YouTube channel and all my social media stuff. But you can play a game that I'm in. It is Honored 2, Snarf Quest Tales, the one next year that I'll announce closer to time because I checked IMDb today and it's still not announced. Only like 4 of the actors are announced so far, so I'll leave that one alone. And XCOM 2 comes to consoles at the end of this month. I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway. 2K Games is one of the coolest clients I've ever worked for, besides Hasbro, because Hasbro, I just freaking love Hasbro because I'm Optimus Prime. But 2K Games, they give me free stuff and they give me swag and shirts and all kinds of cool stuff. So they're giving me 10 copies of XCOM 2 on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 to give away on my YouTube channel. So that was really cool of them. So be looking on my YouTube channel for that. Can't wait to play through what I try to do in my channel, because I do a lot of impression videos, but I try not to do them the way all the other YouTubers that do impressions do them. So I find unique twists. So I like to play through some of the game in the character from the game, and in that case I actually am the character from the game, so I'm gonna be playing as the council guy playing through his own game, so that I'll be giving away some free games, so be on the lookout for that. I think that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'll be linking to your website and YouTube and Twitter and all that stuff.
Again, Epic Voice Guy, pretty much everything's Epic.
Pretty much.
Epic
So it's people just gonna say Epic Voice Guy like 3 times and
yeah. And I don't know when this podcast is going to come out publicly, but Transformers Combiner Wars season finale is tomorrow, and you'll be able to binge watch the entire thing and hear me as Optimus Prime. I still think that's one of the coolest jobs I've ever done.
I would love to do the Autobots rollout with you.
If you want to try, I don't know. Hasbro likes me pretty well.
No, just to end the video,
Oh,
Let's roll out.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll do that. And
that's not what he says. That's not what he says. He says, Autobots transform and roll out.
Autobots transform and roll out.
Don't quit your day job.
Don't quit. Wow. Oh boy, that was funny. Anyways, yeah.
Dear God.
Everyone, that was Jon Bailey, and today
was Prime.
Oh my God. I am sad. Very, very sad now.
That's what you shall be called, Satatron.
Uh-oh. Probably on the thumbnail, I'm trying to just have two Transformers butting heads.
And then at the end of the video, one just gets slowly more defeated.
One shall stand, one shall fall.
One will be in the corner asking for his mom.
Oh boy, this video might take a little bit to edit with that, but you know what?
Yeah.
Hopefully we could probably have this video out sometime next week, probably early next week. But we're probably gonna put this on YouTube and maybe SoundCloud. I'm not sure. SoundCloud hasn't been liking me, especially when I don't want to pay for the membership. I can only put like.
Don't feel bad, man. I can't seem to get anything to get organically reaching anyone anymore. Everybody wants to pay for it now. I
know, and SoundCloud on top of that, it doesn't seem to.
Even if you can post something, they just don't. They don't want it reaching.
You can't really make a profit on it either. Unless you have a
I don't
sponsor
get
in,
anybody from SoundCloud.
in the actual podcast, you
I
can't
can't even make any money from my YouTube account, and I've got like 120,000 subscribers.
Right. But yeah, like I said, we'll probably just post this in YouTube probably.
Well, not that it'll help, but if you send me the link once it's out, I'll share it on my Facebook page.
Yeah,
Tends
that
to
might help.
So I'll be glad to share it for you.
But yeah. So that was Jon Bailey though, and I'm obviously Sliced Bread. My brother is gonna be the Gaming Mexican,
Hi.
the epic voice guy, and RarzRevenge. And we are gonna be
I'm Satatron.
Savage Tron.
Satatron.
Oh, Satatron.
I'm
Sorry, I thought you said Savage Tron.
I have been humiliated by the epic voice guy and his Optimus Prime voice. I will cry now. That is my power.
Oil tears. Make sure you don't leave any stains in the couch.
Lubricants leaking from his optics.
Well, all right, guys. Everyone, have a good one. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Hey.
Bye.